Good morning, everyone. I'm Majority Leader Ellen Corbett. I represent the 10th Senate District. Very glad that you're all here, be able to be here this morning with us on this very serious matter and somber occasion. On September 9th, 2011, nearly a year ago, a horrible tragedy occurred when a high-pressure gas transmission line exploded, killing 8 people and destroying an entire neighborhood. The San Bruno tragedy was the worst disaster in the history of our nation's natural gas industry history. Today we're here with members of the Legislature who have put together a package of bills to improve gas pipeline safety, its oversight, and emergency response if anything goes wrong, because we're here to say we never want to see this happen again. I want to introduce a few people who are here with us today who have been very instrumental in moving the legislation that myself and my colleagues have been working on. I want to introduce Chief Sheldon Gilbert of the Alameda County Fire Department and President of the California Fire Chiefs Association, Deputy Chief Demetrius Schaefer, Alameda County Fire Department and incoming President of the California Fire Chiefs Association, Craig Bueno, Fire Chief of the City of Hayward, Deputy Chief Garrett Contreras of the City of Hayward, and Deputy Fire Chief of the City of Fremont, Ron Mazie. Thank you all for being here. Also, I believe Arturo Frias, President of the Utility Workers of America 132 AFL-CIO, thank you for being here. And I believe Lenny Goldberg is coming too from TURN. Lenny Goldberg is here with us today from TURN as well. Members, we have several bills here today, and I'm going to just touch briefly on members' bills, and then they are, of course, going to talk about their individual work on this matter. And I do want to mention real quickly before I do that one of the reasons we're here today is also to ensure that we do what we can to make sure that our first responders are ready and able to protect our neighborhoods. And I particularly want to thank all of the firefighters in the Alameda County area that responded to San Bruno on mutual aid, including Garrett Contreras, who is here today and played a very important role on site in San Bruno. Thank you, Garrett, for that. The bills today that we're going to be talking about are AB 56 by Assemblymember Hill, which requires numerous safety-related measures regarding the operation of natural gas pipeline facilities. SB 705 by Senator Leno, requiring natural gas utilities to develop service and safety plans. SB 879 by Senator Padilla, increasing the transparency of funding of the maintenance, repair, and safety of gas transmission pipelines. And SB 216 by Senator Yee, which authorizes regulators to require automatic shutoff or remote control valves on certain natural gas lines. I want to speak briefly on SB 44, the measure that I introduced. This bill adopts stricter emergency response standards to improve coordination and response with first responders to pipeline problems to minimize the loss of life and to help prevent damage to property. The bill includes the following standards and procedures: that fire chiefs will be given maps of natural pipelines, where they are located in a format that can be easily integrated into their mapping information so they can be prepared to respond. This bill also will ensure that emergency shutdown and pressure reduction is utilized whenever deemed necessary, and that gas operators have established and maintained liaisons with appropriate fire, police, and other local officials. That bill is now sitting on the governor's desk and is awaiting action. In the year following the tragic San Bruno explosion, we as members have taken a thoughtful and deliberate review of what went wrong and what we can do to stop future incidents. Members, I am delighted to introduce the following speaker, and the rest of my colleagues will be speaking after him. I'd like to start by introducing Assemblymember Hill to talk about his AB 56. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Corbett, and it is an honor to be here today with my colleagues in the legislature. I have the honor of representing San Bruno in the state assembly, and it is truly an honor. And you only had to be there that day and the next morning to see the destruction and the devastation that the explosion caused. I'm really encouraged today to see how seriously my colleagues have worked this year and how dedicated they have been at ensuring that a tragedy like San Bruno will not be repeated. 8 lives were lost, 50 others were injured, homes burned to the ground, and even today, as they're trying to start rebuilding those homes, it's going to be years and maybe lifetimes before they can rebuild their lives. When you visit the Crestmore neighborhood, it's very easy to see that the trauma and pain that was caused by the explosion is still fresh in that community. But we're here today to remember their lives and the lives of those who died, and to renew the promise that their loss will not be in vain. As we look back, we wonder, could it happen again? I tell you today, and with my wonderful colleagues behind me, it's not going to happen on our watch. We're not going to let that happen again. Each one of us has introduced legislation that will help reform the pipeline safety of our state. And we will continue to be vigilant and ensure that both the Public Utilities Commission, PG&E, and the other utilities in California do their job and keep people safe. And this is not the beginning. AB 56, which will be on the floor of the Senate, so maybe I could do a little lobbying this morning and make sure we can get it passed, but it should be on the floor of the Senate today, or certainly in the next day or so. And I would encourage the members to support the bill. And it does encompass a number of safety provisions, and that should work well to bring us to that better level of safety. But this is not the end. This is the beginning of a multi-year process of developing a strategy and more legislation that will protect the interests of California and create greater safety in the pipeline structure. Thank you very much, and Senator Corbett, thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very, very much, and let me join my colleagues on both the Assembly and the Senate side, and those in the difficult position of fighting fires to join us here in this particular press conference. You know, I was there on that fateful night when the explosion occurred. I was there watching and seeing the hell that was created because of that explosion. You literally had individuals going home frantically, calling family, friends, neighbors, and finding out what was happening. A bellowing smoke was coming from that area in San Bruno. Many of us, as we drove towards that, didn't know exactly what was going on. There was just mass confusion. It was absolutely devastating. And in the days and the weeks after that, lives were absolutely torn apart. Communities were devastated by that explosion. And in my bill, what we're trying to do is to give residents and other individuals some modicum of safety. The bill that I have would just simply require that PG&E would in fact need to put these automatic shutoff valves or remote control valves. The NTSB in their hearing in Washington, D.C. made it very, very clear. Had those remote control valves and automatic shutoff valve been in place, the devastation would not have been bad. Lives would have been saved, homes would have been saved, communities would not have been torn up as badly. And so one simple thing, such as these automatic shutoff and remote control valve, could have reduce the devastation. And so hopefully this bill, in fact, will be signed by the governor. This is an important public safety bill. I think as my colleague, Assemblymember Hill, indicate, it can in fact happen. It can in fact happen once again, but not on our watch. We will do everything that we can with all the heart and all the energy within this Capitol to make sure that this will never happen again. So thank you very, very much, and thank my colleagues for all their help and support on this matter.
I'm Senator Mark Leno, representing San Francisco, Marin, and Sonoma counties, just adjacent to San Mateo and Assemblyman Hill's district. Pleased to join our majority leader, and thank you for bringing us all together today, along with Senator Yee. As you can see, this is really a comprehensive package of bills, which deals not only with the immediacy of such an explosion and tragedy and the immediate follow-up in our responders, but also how we can prevent these on the front end. And immediately following the hearing, as chair of the Public Safety Committee, I joined Senator Padilla as chair of the Energy Committee to hold a public oversight hearing to try and begin to understand exactly what went wrong so we can better understand to make sure that we can get things right. And now, a year later, with the conclusion of the NTSB's investigation, we have much more information. And I think we can all agree that the culture of putting profits over public safety must come to an end, that it's time to finally put into statute that safety must come first. And I want to thank the sponsors of our bill, SB 705, the Utility Workers Union of America, along with the Utility Reform Network, and also the California Public Utilities Commission, with whom we have worked throughout this legislative process to get their support of our bill as well. And it should not go unstated that we have the support of San Diego Gas and Electric, Sempra Energy, and Southern California Gas Company for our SB 705 as well. There have been endless headlines in the paper recently, but I did want to point out just a couple relative to the intent and purpose of SB 705. This was about a week ago in the Chronicle. PG&E knew of risks emails show. So there's actually an email trail that clarifies what was known and what was not as much as a year before the explosion of last September 9th. There were engineers who had submitted some emails relative to line 132. And in it, the names of the engineers were redacted, but what was written was that he had found a gap in the seam well as a crack on the pipe that was about 1.25 inches in length. And I'm quoting from the email, "Note that there were several repairs in this area of the pipe. All the repairs were made at the factory. It is likely that this stick, the 30-foot long piece of pipe that did explode, had a number of seam weld defects." Kirk Johnson, the vice president of gas operations for PG&E, was quoted as saying that the engineers had determined that the line was not risk of failure. He went on to say, quote, "In hindsight, after the rupture, I'm sure we very much wish we would have looked at it a different way." And the Chronicle goes on to say that the company could have tested the pipeline using high-pressure water, an effective technique for finding bad seam wells, but PG&E long avoided such inspections, saying they were costly and necessitated shutting down pipelines. So, recognizing what was known, SB 705 will put into place a culture of safety. And we'll do this by requiring that utilities identify, as statute will require, that safety comes first, a top priority, and that they must implement a safety policy at the utility level, and that the CPUC, as the consumer watchdog, ratepayer watchdog, must also make sure that that safety plan is implemented. And also the importance, and this should not go unstated, the importance of assuring ratepayers that rate revenues authorized to support safety and service programs are just and reasonable and spent for that purpose. One of the things Senator Padilla and I heard at our hearing last year was that PG&E would come to the CPUC for multi-million dollars of ratepayer increases to repair a certain line. And then we find later that the line was not even repaired. The response was that priorities shift and they need the flexibility to be able to go attend to something else that takes greater priority at a certain moment, and that is why those millions of dollars were diverted. That's just not good enough. Not only was the San Bruno explosion devastating to the lives that were lost, the homes that were destroyed, the community that was turned upside down forever, but it wasn't the first. We know a 72-year-old man was killed in a gas line pipe explosion Christmas 2008 in Rancho Cordova. NTSB again found fault with PG&E in the way that they had trained their inspectors. And now just last week in Cupertino, yet another gas line pipe explosion. We really have to take safety first seriously. get to the bottom of this in the ground where the pipes are, or we're not going to be able to assure ratepayers that they are safe, and that when they write their checks each month, I'm sure all of us would agree, we don't write our check to our utility thinking, gosh, if something explodes, I'm going to have to pay more because what I'm writing my check out for today doesn't include safety. It's the CPUC's job to make sure that rates are just and reasonable and will not only provide service, but also safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. We're available for any questions, briefly.
Well, I think the NTSB report told us things that we pretty much already knew because we followed it for the last year and we saw all of the deficiencies that came about. I think what we're seeing are areas of greater safety, and one of the issues that was removed from my bill this year that I'm going to reintroduce next year and every year until it passes or I'm no longer here, and that is the fact that that the language stated that the PUC shall consider safety when determining the rate of return of the utility. And if they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is, they're not willing to stand up for safety as a priority, then they certainly shouldn't be rewarded with an extended or greater profit. So that's going to be one issue that's going to continue to move forward as Senator Leno was talking about the issue of safety and how safety is paramount and should be the most important aspect. That's what this bill will do, and that's what we keep and will continue to move forward with. So thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you.